All right, welcome back. We'll continue our focus on the oil sector probes. We'll now be going over to Abuja, where Kestin Pondi joins us. He's an oil and gas expert. Morning, and thank you for joining us. Well, speaking about these probes, because at the moment there seems to be just this groundswell of opinion against any such probes that will not eventually see the light of day, as they say many has not. What do you think about all of these committees, probe panels that are set up, and yet no results so far?
Thank you very much, Chamberlain. I don't want to go into the controversies that have trailed the Ribadu report and all other probe panels that have been set up before now. But there is one thing that is imminent in all this probe, most especially the Ribadu report. It has shown, mostly to those of us who are from the grassroots in the Niger Delta, that the claim by the IOCs, as the international oil companies, and the NNPC, that they loses 150 barrels of oil per day to oil thieves, and the rest are actually unfounded, especially when you consider the fact that what happens in the offices here is a monumental fraud. There is a rot in the system. The DPRO are not living up to their responsibility, and we don't even know the quantity of oil we produce per day. We depend on the figures that are given to us by the IOCs and the oil multinationals.
So
based on that, grounds, I think that...
just a moment. On what grounds, then, do you fault the figures that are being bandied, which you say is fraud?
I am somebody from the grassroots. I work with a company that protects oil facilities in Delta State. And I am grounded in the fact that production was low, and now, considering my operations, it has come up. But what happens in DPRO is something that has been captured in the Ribadu report. Ribadu report states that there is a difference in knowledge, education between the people who works in the DPRO, in the government part, and those who work in the IOCs. The oil companies train their people on regular basis, and we don't do that on our own ground. And monitoring production is something different. You don't sit at home. We are partners. We are going to share profit at the end of the day. You don't sit at home and expect me to bring figures to you. What kind of figures do you expect from me? I'm going to give you figures that are going to favor me, and not figures that are going to favor you. So, whichever you look at it, some people might say that the Ribadu report figures were not confirmed. Is it the figures that are the issue, or the issues that are inherent in the report? The report has stated the obvious. There is rot in the system. DPRO is not living up to their responsibility. People are not paying royalties. Are those things not sufficient to be looked at?
All right. Shed some light on some of the matters you raised, if you will. You talked about the crude oil production, which was low once upon a time, but when you came in and quote unquote secured some of those facilities, it rose. Do you want to share some of those figures that we had, that you had in time past, upon which you say production increased? Any facts and figures from you?
Yes. Yeah, I will always shed light on that for you. Yes. As at the time we came on board on the March, we signed an agreement with NNPC March 2011. Before then, our operation predated that time because we had the assurances of the government to work. And when we swung into action in Delta State, go to the PPMC and check their records. Before we started, if PPMC pumped from Escravos to Warri, a 64 to 65 kilometer distance, they loses up to 35% of productivity. But today, when we swung into action, in less than 1 month, what they had was just less than 2%. And the PPMC also told us that what they are losing in that 2% might not be necessarily because we are not working, but could be as a result of some of their metering issues. Why am I saying all these things? The NNPC gave us a contract to employ 5,000 people. 5,000 people will generate employment in the Niger Delta. 5,000 is to Delta State alone. There are people in Bayelsa State and there are people in Rivers State who are also doing similar job. But I'm going to restrict myself to Delta, and as time goes on, I will go into Bayelsa and Rivers. Now, look at what has happened in Delta State specifically. Production has risen from 65% at delivery to 90-something% to 100% delivery. We've been working to ensure all this happens. The PPMC, on their own part, complement our effort. The JTF will work with regularly because, you know, like I stated in one of my media campaign, that you can't just go to a people and impose yourself on them. When we have a contract, we went into the various communities, oil-bearing communities, and sensitize them. You must talk to the people and tell them the stake they owe in the oil sector. You don't just give them opportunity to work without them knowing what they are working for.
All right.
Everybody thinks that you are working for Abuja.
Yeah, just a minute.
And that you are not working for yourself. So if you want to tell them that they are not working just to benefit Abuja, but also to benefit their places, they have to go out there and do the right thing. NNPC pays 30,000 naira. And 30,000 naira, as you and I know, in the riverine area, is not sufficient for anybody to work.
All right,
maybe
just a minute.
In Delta State, we have to devise other mediums. We identify gray areas. And if we are supposed to employ 1,000 people, we have to put 300 people in that area so that they can get it.
All right, and welcome back. Well, let's attempt to get back to Kestin Pondi and take a look at these all-sector probes and what a lot of people think in the country. Yes, Mr. Pondi, if you can make out what we're saying now, what are your thoughts on several probes going on in the country? And at the moment, Nigerians seem to say, look, we haven't seen any major report in spite of what the efforts that the government of the day seem to be putting into all of this.
The government of the day's effort into all of these is commendable in the sense that they set up a probe panel to probe the activities of NNPC and their subsidiaries, and they employed, created employment for a lot of youths in the Niger Delta. But what we are talking about is sustainability of that gesture they have shown. If you have put forward a probe and the probe has submitted the result, you have to look at those things that make that probe worthwhile and pick them. If they are workable, you pick them and work with them. In situations where some members of the government make themselves inaccessible to the people they tend to govern, there will be breakdown or there will be break in communication between the masses you govern, and that could also lead to some other things. Take, for instance, if production goes up, the country's economy also will improve. And for those of us who are from the Niger Delta, especially from the creeks, we tend to make sure that people don't use us as excuse for not developing the Niger Delta region. And so we do everything. For instance, our contract has expired since February, but we are still working because we don't want a situation where we are going to go back to square one. Because once we go back to square one, the same excuse will come up again. And we also don't want a situation where the people who steal these oils at the crude oil loading platforms and the rest, we want to attribute their theft to illegal bunkers, vandals, and illegal refinery owners.
All right, Mr. Pondi, thank you very much indeed for speaking with us today on Sunrise Stadium. We'll be back in just a moment.